What are we doing? Yeah, because it auto, I'm not worried if it's perfectly straight or not. Because it tries to auto. Hello, my name's Aaron Enzer. I'm the owner and president of Ace Pyro, and I appreciate you joining us for our very first webcast. This very first webcast is, as we have said, the first webcast, so please forgive us if we have a few technical challenges as we run along, but I'm going to tell you today about StarFire. And I'm going to show the various components, kind of describe some of the various items, and then we do have some people here that are physically present as well as online, and so we are going to be answering any questions that people may have about StarFire. First of all, I want to show you the controller. And so we're going to go and take a look at the controller. The controller is the heart of the system. This really shows you all the various windows into the system. So this shows you, for example, how your system is operating. It gives you the ability to control the system. We start out and it's all menu driven. So for example, right now we are on the main menu. And the main menu gives you a whole variety of different items to choose from. So this is as simple as running an ATM or a gas pump, something along that lines. So first of all, we can start out, and in its most basic simple form, this allows you to be able to manually shoot a show, just like any other firing panel. So when we do this, it first looks at the continuity on each piece of equipment that's set up. In this case, we have 10 modules hooked up, and it tells us we have 32 cues to fire. Once we decide to, we have our continuity checked, we can simply arm the system just like a manual firing panel, and then we can select a cue and we can fire that. And as we fire each cue, it's going to fire that corresponding cue on a module. If we want to go to a next module, we can simply select the next module in advance or go previous. Or we also have the ability to select a module with the module keys over here. So if we want to go to module 9, we can type in 009 and it will jump to that one. We also have a stopwatch, so we can turn on a stopwatch to see how long our show is. And if we also want to have a fewer number of modules, we can simply select the number of digits. So now, if I press 2, it'll go to 2. If I press 9, it'll go to 9. Many times in a manual show you may not have many modules, so that's a quick and easy way to change from module to module. So I'm going to turn the system off. We're going to go back to our main menu, and we have the other end of the spectrum, which is a scripted show. So in this case, we're going to go to a script. We've already loaded a script into the system, and this is going to give us the ability to shoot a Pyro musical. So we have the ability to be able to have a fully designed, choreographed to music show, or if you didn't do it to music, you also have the ability to be able to select a script ahead of time and just have the computer control the pacing of a show even if you don't use music. So in this case, we're going to arm the system again. We've already loaded the script. And in this case, we're going to do manual time code. So we're manually going to tell the system to start. And I'm going to press this in just this button in just a moment here to start the show. But we're going to show you some modules. So if you go and you look at the modules, we're going to see this particular script that's going to shoot very, very quickly. So I go ahead and start it, and then a few seconds later, we have a rapid sequence firing. So this would be the way to be able to do the other end of the spectrum where you actually shoot a Pyro musical or a show that is fully scripted. So once we do that, the last mode I'm just going to talk about a little bit is a sequence show. A sequence show allows you, it's kind of the best of both worlds. It allows you to be able to manually control the pacing, and you can select individual cues or sets of cues or even some of the fancy effects you can do with the computer firing system by simply having a button represent like a mine run. So you could set it up so you have a mine run on your first button, you have a flight of shells on your next button, but you shoot every single thing in order, and the computer takes care of which module and which cue to shoot as you simply go one button at a time. So now if you'd have cakes and you don't know how long they're going to shoot, you can simply hit the button. You can watch the cakes. When the cakes start to fade out, then you can simply go to the next item and the next item and the next item. Next, I'm going to talk about the module. And so we have modules that connect to the firing system. So the modules themselves are designed so that they are waterproof. They literally can be submerged completely in water. It's a hard aluminum case, so the aluminum case itself is nearly indestructible. They have survived all kinds of abuse, and these modules are extremely durable. They've survived fire to the point of starting to melt the case, the aluminum case, and they still have been functional. The module itself connects via 2 wires, so you simply have a wire that you connect, a pair of wires, and that can go directly back to the firing system. The modules have a standardized output, so there's 32 cues that you can connect to the back of the module, and from the module you'll connect a cable, and then you'll connect over to the rails. There's a variety of different rails that we have available. This is what we call our mini rail. This is one of our most popular by far of any of the rails we sell. It provides you terminals for 32 cues. A lot of times we'll mount them on the side of a rack, and you'll simply take your wires, connect it to the terminals. We also, one of our customers asked that we design a rail with binding posts. So we've designed this rail for one of our customers that has these binding posts. So instead of the terminals, speaker terminals, they have a different type of connector on them, which is very popular. Then we also have our full-size rail, and our full-size rail actually has one feature the others don't, is that you can connect the module to any one of these connectors, and then you have the ability to be able to connect to another module or another rail, and so one module could then connect to 2 or 3 or more rails. So this is ideal if you have a series of cakes that you want to spread out, or if you hooked up a bunch of fireworks, but then the wires for subsequent fireworks were a little bit too short. you could use one of these rails to go to the other side of the rack and be able to continue. So you could do like cues, 1 through 16 on this one, and then on the other side of the rack, continue 17 through 32. One of the new items that we've introduced more recently is our Starbridge. So our Starbridge consists of a radio module. So we have a Starbridge radio, and the Starbridge radio allows us to eliminate long trunk lines between our controller and our modules out in the field. So now, and we can simply take one of these radios, we connect it with wire to a controller, we take another radio that's going to be out in the field, and then we need to provide power. So this is the power supply, and this power supply will provide all the power necessary to be able to power all the modules out in the field. But you've eliminated your trunk line. If you're on the other side of a road, if you're on another building, if you're on a barge, for example, you can have your controller on shore and you can wirelessly connect to your barge. A couple things that I want to talk about regarding wiring. So we have our controller, or we have our modules, and after when we connect our modules, particularly if we get to a large number, sometimes we've had challenges where people have called us up and they've had some system challenges. One of those system challenges is they'll run too much wire to too few modules. Well, I'm going to go back to the controller and I'm going to show you some of the features that we have and some of the troubleshooting that we can do. In our controller, we have a tools menu, and on that tools menu, I'm going to go to a module status first of all. In a module status, this is going to tell us each module that's connected, tell us the voltages of what that module is seeing. So a lot of times if people wanted to run like 20 modules and they wanted to be 1,000 feet from their controller, the actual input voltage will start to become too low. So this gives us their input voltages, and there's two ways to fix this. One is to run another trunk line so that you have less power on each trunk line and split your modules in half. The other way to be able to fix this is to be able to wirelessly connect by putting the power out in the field. Now you can have the power supply very, very close to the modules. So right now we have our system connected wirelessly, so we're really reading what the pack voltage is or the power supply voltage is out in the field. So this gives us the ability to be able to know for sure we've got plenty of power. We also have a couple other items here, like for example our script verify. That tells us that the script that's loaded in the modules is exactly the same script that's loaded in the controller. This gives us a lot of feedback so that we know for sure that when we actually go to shoot the show, that everything's going to fire correctly. We have continuity here that we can go to, and then we actually have scripted continuity. And in this case, it's going to go through and check the continuity of each module, and it's going to give us a specific list of what is different or what types of items might not be correct as according to the script. In this case, it's going to say all continuity good. But I'm going to walk over and I'm actually going to disconnect one of our items or one of our electric bulbs that we have here, just so we can kind of see what it looks like when something isn't correct. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to recheck, and I'm going to recheck all. So it's going to go through all of the modules. So now it's telling us that module 1 we have an open and it's Q31. Another nice feature of the system is that we can choose to recheck a single module at a time. So if you have multiple people in the field on a very large show trying to check many modules, you can safely check one module at a time without clearing the entire field of your crew. Another item to make sure that you know you're going to have a good show, particularly in a wireless environment, is we have a tools menu and then we have a wireless menu. This wireless menu is going to show us details of exactly how good our communication is. In this case, it's going to tell you the signal strength, both going out to the field, the return signal strength from the field, and then it continues to poll the system. So if you are in a stadium environment or another type of environment, it might be very difficult to, relative to wireless communications, this system is going to allow you to, well ahead of time, poll again and again and again to know exactly how well your wireless system is going to work when it comes showtime. It's going to tell you how many responses it received, and so you know if you have highly accurate communication. This ends up, in this case, we're very close. We have a very, very strong signal, of course, because our two radios are only about 20 feet apart. But even if there was an occasional packet loss, the system's designed that when it goes to fire the show, you can actually lose individual packets and you will not miss any shots with the firing system. We're going to go back now and we're going to talk a little bit more about scripted shows, and we're going to talk a little bit about timecode. Timecode seems to be a mystery to a lot of people. So we showed earlier how we can manually start timecode. Timecode is nothing more than an audio signal coming from a computer or your timecode source telling you what time it is. The controller itself has two inputs, either an XLR input or an RCA input to be compatible with a whole variety of different timecode sources and cables. The timecode itself is, because it's an audio signal, you can play that from a computer, you could play that from a phone, you could play that from a CD player. Any type of item will be able to feed the timecode. So the timecode not only tells you, the timing, it tells you a very specific time. So it's kind of like a watch, but it's a watch that's been converted to an audio signal. So as you feed the timecode into the control panel, it's going to simply tell it what time it is. The control panel is then going to set its clock based on the inbound signal coming in so that you end up having the firing system following that audio signal. So if, for example, you needed to, for some reason, you needed to pause your show and you wanted to go back a couple minutes, you could rewind your audio signal and your time code and you could play. And that time code would simply, the firing system, when it heard that time code again, it would hear what time it is, and it would simply jump to that time and start shooting that portion of the script. So next, I'm going to show you how easy it is to load various scripts. We currently have loaded a script for the demo you saw just a minute ago, which is a very rapid demonstration. But we simply take a USB key or a USB memory stick, we plug it into the controller, and as we plug it into the controller, it's going to start reading all the scripts here. We go to the scripted shows. We want to load a script. So again, it's all menu driven very easily to be able to read. We load the script, and when we select load strip, it's going to show you all of the various shows that are on this USB key. In this particular case, there's a pretty large number of them, but it's going to give you information about the name of each individual show. So for example, we want to select a sequence fire. We're going to do 10 module slow, and we simply select the file, and it loaded 320 lines of script. So it tells you how many cues are in that. The next process is we program the modules. So we program the modules, and as we hit that button, what it's going to do is it's going to take the script from the controller, and it's going to send it to each module. So as it does it, it will give you the status. It'll tell you that you have the modules, each one. It programs them one at a time. In this way, ahead of time, when it actually comes to showtime, all of the scripts and the modules are set to be able to fire the show. So when it actually comes to time to turn on the show, it takes very, very, very little time. Okay, now we can simply go back from our programming. We can display the script, so it will show us the actual script, on the screen. This particular script doesn't have any descriptions in it, which is common on if you just simply manually create your script. And then we can again, it gives us the name of the script, tells us that it's a sequence script. So we're going to go to sequence show, and we're going to see that we have, in this particular case, we have 10 events. This is going to give us 10 individual buttons, and then each button is going to shoot in this particular case, it's going to shoot a module all at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back, we're going to look at our modules, and as we hit each button, we're going to see the module is going to shoot each individual cue. So with a single button, we can set up a whole sequence. So we can shoot one item after another, after another, after another. But we simply had to hit one button to start the timing. And then when we get to the ready for the next module, you can simply hit the next button, and now you're shooting the next module one cue at a time. Okay, and this one tells you again time remaining, so you know how much time until each sequence is done, and then it'll advance and be ready for the next item. So in this case, we have a 32-second cue because we're shooting 1 cue per second on each module with a single press of the button. So that concludes most of the presentation. A couple things that I did want to announce is that a couple enhancements we are doing to the system. We are going to soon be releasing lithium batteries for the main controller. This is going to reduce the weight by about 20 pounds. We're just doing our final testing before release for that. Another thing about Ace Pyro that we're about ready to release is we're actually, to help make the scripting process easier and faster, we are actually going to be allowing our customers to place an order on our website and then be able to download a Shells database that's compatible with Finale 3D. We're currently in testing. We hope to have that done and completed within the next month or two. And so now you'll be able to place an order. You'll be able to download your Shells database, design your show in Finale 3D. And once you've designed your show in Finale 3D, then it's quick and easy to, of course, install that back into the StarFire and be able to shoot your show. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. Are there any questions? Okay. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back at approximately 6:30, and we're going to give a presentation on Finale 3D. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Drew. I'm with Finale Fireworks, and it's a pleasure to be here today with everyone at Ace Pyro, and of course everyone who's watching out there online. I'm here today to give a presentation on the Finale 3D scripting software. This is a scripting and fireworks design tool that you can use to design fireworks shows and then export them to be shot in the real world. So let's jump right in. The first thing we'll do is we'll walk through a really quick PowerPoint presentation, and then I'll jump right into the software pretty quickly. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of the content of today's session, and then we'll jump right into the demo in the software itself. All right, so today we're going to talk about StarFire plus Finale 3D, and specifically, at the end of the session, we'll have designed a sequence-fired show, which if you listened in and you were watching when Aaron did the presentation on StarFire earlier, then you would have seen him shoot a couple sequence-fire shows on the StarFire controller that were already designed, and he had those on a USB flash drive. We're actually going to go through the steps to design one of those shows and then export it to a flash drive, and then we'll shoot it here on our light boards with the test system that we have set up. So let's walk through the steps that we're going to take. I'm going to talk a little bit about downloading Finale 3D. For anybody who doesn't already have the software, it'll just be a brief introduction to how you get the software. And then we're going to talk about how you get your fireworks into Finale 3D. And Aaron alluded to this earlier when he talked about a catalog of effects that ACE will have and offering ACE customers the option to download and order in a format that allows you to put it directly into Finale 3D when you've placed an order with Ace Pyro on their website. We're going to talk about the design. So then we'll jump into the design process, and that'll consist of the following steps. So we'll do some arranging of firing positions in our virtual shoot site in Finale 3D. We'll import quotas, and the quotas are the quantities of fireworks that we're going to use to design our little show. And we'll work on creating those sequences, so we'll use some scripting tools to create sequences of effects on the timeline and in the script. And then we'll look at how we assign the sequence event info that the StarFire controller needs to differentiate between the different parts of our design and give us the options to fire it on our panel. We'll look at adding racks within the virtual environment, so we'll be able to see diagrams of the racks that we need for our show. We'll assign the firing system addresses, so this is where Finale 3D will go through and assign the module and queue numbers for each of the effects in our show. And then we'll export the StarFire script, and we'll look at a couple reports and some labels that you might use in the real world for labeling your products to make show setup easy. So that's the end of our presentation, and first thing I'm going to jump into is how you get Finale 3D. So I'm going to jump over here to a web browser, and we're looking at the Finale 3D homepage. The web address is finale3d.com. So if you're not already using Finale 3D today and you're interested in trying the software, visit finale3d.com and then just go to the download page. And on the download page, we have the latest version of our software right at the top of the page. Now, there are different levels of licensing for Finale 3D. One is called Lite, one is called Hobbyist, and one is called Pro. I'm going to jump over to our pricing page so you can see those here. So these are the different levels of the software, Lite, Hobbyist, and Pro. They come with a different price point. As you can see, $149 for Lite, $349 for Hobbyist, and $1,049 for Pro. Those are yearly subscription rates. Lite is meant mostly for backyard hobbyists or folks that do one show a year. The Lite version, excuse me. Hobbyist version is meant for folks doing more shows a year or needing more features. And the Pro version has all the bells and whistles and does everything. Also, it's important to mention that you can also buy Finale 3D directly from Ace Pyro. So if you're an Ace Pyro customer and you want to support Ace Pyro, you buy your StarFire equipment from Ace Pyro, then you can also buy Finale 3D directly on Ace Pyro's website. If you're just trying it out and you've downloaded the software and you want to get a free trial license, you can come to this page, you can click this green button. All you need to do is give us your name and email address and tell us which version you'd like to try, and a member of the Finale team will get back to you with a license that you can use to try the software for a few weeks. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump over to the software, and we're going to look at designing a little show. I mentioned that there are 3 versions of Finale. For the purpose of today's demonstration, I'm going to be using the Pro version. A lot of the features that are available in Pro are also available in Hobbyist and Lite, but it's important to mention that at certain points I'll be using features that are only available in the Pro version, and I'll mention those as I do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the user interface, and then we'll jump into the design process. So when Finale launches, you have 3 windows. Here on the left, you have the design window. This has your virtual shoot site and your firing positions. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you have what's called the effects window. This is where all your effects or your inventory are stored. And in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you have what we call the script window. At the moment, the script window is blank because we haven't added any fireworks to our show. Down below the design, you have the timeline. And if you were to add music to your show, then you would see the waveform for the music down here, which would allow you to align the fireworks to the beats of music visually. For today's demonstration, to keep it simple, I'm not going to design a show to music, but it's very easy to add music in Finale 3D. We support both WAV files and MP3s. So to get started, I'm going to make some slight modifications to my shoot site. So here I have our default show template, which opens each time you launch Finale 3D. And I have 9 firing positions, P01 through P09. I'm going to add one more position, and we're going to pretend that our positions here are for what we call fronts or smaller caliber effects, and we'll add a single position in the back for some larger caliber effects. So I'm going to use the camera presets on the right-hand side of the screen, and I'm going to switch to the top view. So now we're looking at our firing positions from the top down, and I'll go to the positions menu, and I'll just do add, and I'll add 1 position. That unlocks the positions and allows me to drag them around, and I can see here I've got my ruler so I can see where I'm dropping that position. So I'm just going to put it a couple hundred feet back right here in the center. So there's our position, that's our 10th position, and we'll go ahead and go with that. If you wanted to add more positions, you can do that from the positions menu, and there's lots of other options in there, and we won't be able to cover all the things that we can do in the limited time we have here today. So with that position added, I'm going to go ahead and lock down our positions and switch back to the front view. So that's a little bit about just a brief demonstration on arranging firing positions. Again, there's a lot more you can do there. The next thing I want to do is talk about how you get your fireworks into Finale 3D. Obviously, if you're going to design a show, you have to be able to get your fireworks in. So as Aaron mentioned, and I mentioned again at the top of this session, ACE is working on, and this is in what I would call beta right now, it's a work in progress, so this is not publicly available yet, but ACE has a catalog of effects that will match the effects that you're able to purchase on their website. So you can, once this catalog is launched, hopefully fairly soon, you'll be able to subscribe to the catalog in your online account, and you do that by going to File and then choosing Catalogs of Effects. And suffice it to say, I'm not going to demonstrate it, but if you click the Continue button, it launches a web browser, and it takes you right to the part of your online account where you can enable the catalogs that you'd like. And once the ACE catalog is launched, it'll be there. You just literally flip the switch, and then it's downloaded when you sign into Finale 3D. So here I have an example of a lot of the products that ACE has carried over the years. And what I'm going to do is use some specific products to design a small show. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to import quotas. And this is an example of one of the types of files that you would be able to get from ACE in the online system once the development's finished to be able to import into Finale 3D. So imagine that you placed an order with ACE on their website. So you're on acepyro.com, you log in, and then you'd be able to get your quotas from the order that you place with ACE. So it'll be a list of those items. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. We'll open it up in Excel. So it's really simple. The quotas file is simply effectively a spreadsheet or a text file or a CSV file, and it has 2 columns. The first column is part number, and the second column is quantity. And so I have some part numbers here that are these are ACE part numbers, they're in the ACE catalog, and I have some quantities that I plan to use for the show. So it's just that simple, and you can create this yourself today even though it's not available for download from ACE, or you can, it will be available for future directly from the website. The other way to get your fireworks into Finale, as I said, is to subscribe to some catalogs, and then you can enter, if you have a collection of fireworks that you own, that you already have in your magazine, you can import the quantities of the items that you have from a spreadsheet. And we have examples of how to do that on our website in our documentation. There's not enough time to get into it today, so we're going to go with the quotas file that I have prepared. So we're going to go to File, Import, and we're going to do Import Quotas. This just gives the instructions that we've already covered. I'm just going to go ahead and select the quotas, and then click Continue to Import. All right, so it says it's imported those rows. There's 3 of them. So we had 3 part numbers. And now it doesn't look like anything's changed. The reason is because we don't have the column that shows us our quotas visible in the effects window. So when you're working on a show, you're looking at some set of columns in Finale 3D. For example, right now I have the used column, which is blank because we haven't used anything in our show. I have the available column, the part number column, the description column, size, type, rack type, etc. So there are many more columns that are not visible by default. When you're scripting with quotas, you need to go ahead and unhide some columns to make it really useful. So I'm going to go up to the blue gear menu here, and I'm just going to unhide a column. This is a full list of all the columns that are in Finale 3D. And I'm just going to unhide the column called Remaining Quota. So I just clicked on that, and it's been added to the window. So right now, it's over here on the right. There it is, Remaining Quota. What I'm going to do is right-click on it and move it over to the left. So I'm just clicking Move to the left, and we've placed it right here to make it easy for us to see. I'll go ahead and shrink it down so I can see my part numbers. And we are not going to use the available column. If you have a set of, generally available means all the fireworks you have in your magazine or that you own, whereas quota means the fireworks that I want to use specifically for one particular show. So in this case, I don't own any fireworks, so my available quantities are empty. All I have are these quotas for this particular show that I'm going to shoot. That's the hypothetical scenario we're working from today. So now I'm still seeing zeros. Well, why is that? It's because the particular items that we're looking at here, there's a long list of effects, but the items that are at the very top are not the items that I've imported. So the quantities are in here. Now what I want to do is filter from the full ACE catalog just to seeing the items that I actually have purchased, that I actually have a quota for. So we have a series of filters, and we have a search box and a series of filters at the top of the effects window. So you can filter the list by size, you can filter by color, you can filter by many criteria. One of the filters is called quantity. If you go into the quantity filter, you have a variety of choices. One of them is quota greater than 0. So just by clicking this, now it filters the entire effects list just to those items that we have to use in our show. So here are the items that we're going to use today. We have 18 remaining. This is the remaining quota, which means that this number will count down as we add these effects to the show. We have 18 2-inch red meteor comets with white flashing mines. We have 3 chains of assorted red, white, and blue peonies. And we have 9 2.5-inch titanium salute cakes. This is a really great item. I don't know if we'll be seeing this again, but wishful thinking maybe. So we're going to go ahead and design the show. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to design a national anthem. So we have our red comets for rockets' red glare. We have our salutes for bombs bursting in air. And we have our red, white, and blue chain color shells for Home of the Brave. And we're going to design this as a sequence-fired show because we're going to pretend that we're going to be shooting this to a live rendition of the national anthem. And we want to be able to press a button when we hear the words rockets red glare. We want to press another button on the StarFire controller when we hear bombs bursting in air. And we want to press another button on the controller when we hear Home of the Brave. But we don't know exactly when that's going to be because we don't know how fast or slow the band is going to play or the person's going to sing. So that's why we're not doing it as a fully automated script, but we're doing it as a sequence fire. So we'll be able to initiate 3 separate chunks of the script as sequences. So now we've got our fireworks in, we've got our quotas, and we've set up our firing positions, and now we can go ahead and work on doing the actual scripting and putting the products in. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select some firing positions. So when you want to add an effect to your show, you select a firing position and you click on the thumbnail image of the effect. So I just clicked on position 1, and now I'll click on the little thumbnail picture of the effect here. I can also click the little gold play icon in the lower right-hand corner, and I can preview that effect. If I want a bigger preview, I can click in the upper left-hand corner, and there I get to see a nice preview of what that effect looks like. So you don't have to add the item to the show to see it. You can preview it like that right in the effects window. So I have my position 1 selected. I click on the thumbnail icon, and now I have one red comet in my show. If I click to the left of it, it moves the little playhead to the left. So I just click in the open green space, and then I can hit play or spacebar to play the show, and we'll see that comet shoot. So there it is. We've got a red meteor comet with a white flash mine, and that's pretty boring. So we need to spice it up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and create a sequence, which is a chase of comets that goes across our front of positions, so position 1 all the way up to position 9. So I'm going to hold Shift on my keyboard, and I'm going to drag a selection box over the remaining 8 positions here that I haven't added a comet to. And then now that I have 8 positions selected, when I click on the little thumbnail icon of the effect, it'll add that comet into all those positions. So now, to make the sequence, I'm going to select all of these. So I want to make changes to all 9 of these. Only 8 of them are selected, and we can see that because the dots that go up from the ground, we call them trajectory dots, are white. So to select all 9, I'm just going to click and drag over all 9 of them. I can also select rows in the script window, just like so, kind of like selecting rows in an Excel spreadsheet. So I'll select those 9 effects, and now what I want to do is angle them to the right. There's many ways to do this. One of the ways that's coolest is to click on the little donut at the top and just drag it over like so. So I'll just make these 20 degrees. Now all of these comets are shooting at 20 degrees to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and play this back so you can see what that looks like. So there we go. Now, they're all being fired at the same time. So we've got the angle the way we want it, but we also want to get a sequence. So we want them to fire in an order where they go 1, 2, 3, 4 across from left and right. So how can we do that? So again, we'll select all the effects, and I'll show a couple ways to do that. One is we have a little bracket at the bottom right here. So you can just click and drag that bracket, and you can stretch out that sequence from being something that fires as a flight altogether to something that fires over a period of time. So to exaggerate that, you can see I'm dragging that way out to the right here. So I'll drag it a little bit and play it back and give you an idea of what that looks like. So something like that. So we'll go ahead and undo that, and I'll show you a different way. We'll go up to the scripting menu, and there's lots of scripting functions in here. We can't cover them all today, unfortunately, in the time we have, but I'm going to show you sequence. So I'm going to script and then sequence, and then I'm going to make into sequence. And here I have precise control over what that chase of comets is going to look like from a time perspective. So I can specify the total duration of the sequence or the time interval between each shot being fired, and I'll go ahead and do that. I'm just going to go with the default, which is 0.1, so it's already in there. I'm just retyping it, and I'll let it go from left to right. So that looks great. So I'll just click enter, and there's my sequence from left to right. Okay, perfect. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to have that sequence go back from the right to the left. So we want it to fire left to right and then back right to left. So we could start this process all over. We could add 9 more effects. We could angle them to the left. We could sequence it. Or we can just take the work we've already done and we can duplicate it. There's multiple ways to do this. One of the easiest ways is just to select the effects and then do edit, copy, and it's easiest to use the keyboard shortcut, Control-C, and then we'll paste using Control-V. So since I'm here, I'll click that menu item, and I'll just come over to an open area of my timeline and click to put the playhead, and I'll press Control-V on my keyboard to paste. So now we have the same sequence repeated twice, but what we actually want is we want the second sequence to come back from the right to the left. So I'll select those effects, and I'll use a couple scripting functions to do that. Of course, I could drag the trajectory dots, but instead, I'll just go up to Script, Angles, and I'll do Mirror Angles. Now they all point the other direction, and we're halfway done. So they're still firing from left to right, even though we've got the angles fixed up. So to change that, we'll go up to Script, and we'll go to Reorder, and we'll do Reverse Order. So now we've mirrored the angles, and we've reversed the firing order, and now we have a sequence that goes the other way. And they're also being shot to the left at that negative 20-degree angle. So now what we need to do is fix up the timing. So we could drag the individual cue markers or select all of these effects and drag this group and try to get it in exactly the right spot so that we have perfect cadence, meaning a tenth of a second between each shot. But we can just select everything and then use the sequence command again to achieve the same result. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go to Script, Sequences, and this time instead of make into sequence, I'm going to choose an even easier command called Spread Out Evenly. And it literally does just that. I put in the time interval that I want, and I click Enter, and now all of those effects are spaced apart 1/10 of a second precisely. So if I play it back, I get something that looks like this. So there it is. Let's say that that's Rocket's Red Glare, and our sequence is done. So let's do Bombs Bursting in Air next, and then we'll do Home of the Brave. Now, we said that we're going to make a sequence-fired show, and we're going to have 3 buttons that we press. So the first button that we're going to press in the StarFire controller is going to be the button number 1, and we're going to we're going to shoot all of these effects. The next button that we're going to press is going to be button number 2, and it's going to be for Bombs Bursting in Air. And we can script that anywhere on the timeline because the script will automatically be generated so that the first item is shot when we push the button. So it doesn't matter where we start, so we can just work anywhere on the timeline, and the beginning of each sequence, the time will automatically be set to 0. And you'll see what that means visually here once we export our script. So just bear with me on that if that's a little bit confusing. So let's jump in here and let's make this interesting. Let's put some salute cakes. I know John likes his salute, so we're just going to, how many did I allocate? Okay, we have 9, that's good. We can put 1 on each front, so this is going to be crazy. So we'll just select all the front positions again. I did that by holding Shift and then dragging a selection box and selecting all 9 of those front positions. And now I'm just going to click on the little thumbnail icon to add those in. And there we go. Just drag that over a little bit, and let's see what that looks like. I think if you're watching the stream, that probably sounded pretty awesome. If you're here in person, then unfortunately it was just visual. So those have got the whistle tails, and then they go up to the salutes at the top. So that's our bombs bursting in air. That's going to be all there is to it. So we're going to fire those all straight up. It's a pretty big cake, so we're not going to angle that. Just going to leave that just there like that. That's all set. So now we'll move on to Home of the Brave, and we can put that anywhere we like on the timeline. I'm just going to work over here around the 25 second mark. And for this, we're going to click on the position in the back. That's our shell position, position 10. And we'll go ahead and click to add one of these effects in. Oops, sorry, that was the wrong effect. That's a cake there. This guy. So this effect here is a chain. So when we click we actually added 12 shells on the chain, and it's set up to count that as one chain. So column, and you can see those tilt angles from our earlier. A lot of fields in this can still count the number of racks that are needed for a show. Print a report that shows the number of racks, but you can't visually see the racks and drag and drop them in the interface.